everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and we will discuss on talent economy. And this is very important episode. And for this episode, I want to give all of the thanks to all of our speakers, Mr. Tom Rose, Mr. Dan, Dr. Tamanna, and Mr. David Smith, and all of the speakers, those who attend last 1,000 episodes, including today's sessions. And it's a long journey, a long story, very hard time some point, and some point very good for us. And most importantly, World Talent Economy Forum right now it become a very good platform for global communities. And one question always I has to face: why it become talent economy? Because uh, I actually grew up myself in a very small country like Bangladesh, uh, from a very small cities like Rajbari. And I find that emerging economy has beauty, especially when I shift myself like in Europe, and I work in Asia Pacific. Last 15 years, I was in different countries, in different places. And I find that emerging economy definitely beautiful place. I told you that my father was freedom fighters. Definitely, I learned a lot of things from my father. He died in 2017. On the same time, I find that our major challenge right now to gain economical sustainabilities. So when talent and economical activities work together, that we make a bit better strategy for a nations, it become very helpful. And I'm very happy. I'm very happy. Right now, we are working with many countries, different government agencies, different corporations, many academicians, and university, school, college, they join with us. I just want to share with you, we have more than 522,000 entrepreneur initiative, our dialogue, our business incubation, our research project become very influential projects. And all credit goes to our speakers, because last 1,000 episode, every moment you support us, every moment when I invite many people join. We have a lot of rejection, and now we have a lot of success. But all credit goes to our audience, goes to our speakers and everyone. So, Mr. Tomros, what you want to discuss about today's sessions, and what's your experience? How we can work
Well, yeah,
together?
I
How
wanted
we
to.
can bring
Yeah, well, we have been working together a lot, and this show I wanted to come on and just to celebrate your thousandth episode because you gave me the opportunity to hone my message over many shows. I look back at them a while ago, and I've been repeating myself over and over trying to hone this message, and it when you see it all together, it really makes you crazy because it's the same message, but has allowed me. This show has allowed me to really hone that message, and now to put it into our campaign, and it's just really helped me devise the the message and the practical steps to creating those messages in the world. And so I just really wanted, and we've worked together on a few things. I was able to come to Dhaka in Bangladesh in April, and you showed me around the halls of power there. I was really impressed from the moment I got off the plane, where I was met by your people and ushered uh, through customs and the visa operation and all that, and then whisked away to a first class hotel. And it was, you just really showed me what your reach is politically and in the academic world. We met with vice chancellors of universities there, at the Oxford of the Southeast Asia, at Dhaka University. And so I just really have come to appreciate the reach you have the into the halls of power in Southeast Asia. And so I just really wanted to come on and celebrate this thousandth episode. And that alone, I mean, I had tried different podcasts, but to do one every day, I mean, every day of the week for 1,000 episodes takes a great deal of discipline and diligence, and with all your other work going on at the same time. And this is like 11 o'clock your time or 10 o'clock your time at night there. And so it just takes a lot to do the full day and then have to end your day doing these shows every weekday. It's just an amazing feat, and I'm here to congratulate you and to celebrate you.
I think your dad would be proud, Sharif. You're a freedom fighter in your own right. It sounds like you must have started this around the time that he passed. So I just want to add my congratulations real quick on that topic. And
Dr. Tamanna. Yeah. Can you hear
Yes.
me, Dr. Tamanna? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course, please.
We are discussing about talent economy and how we can develop some better strategy for emerging economy, especially the people like developed nations, those who regularly join in our World Talent Economy Forum, how we can celebrate today's sessions and what the new strategy we can develop for economic development.
Uh, because talent economy is the new buzzword, right now, and especially COVID, and the Generation Z, and and the new kind of systems which are evolving, like for example, people who are women who have younger children, or people have their older parents to take care of. So all these kind of systems have brought about a new talent economy where people are uh, developing their own systems, you know and the talent economy has to take care of these kind of systems in a big way. Now, developed countries have developed a certain system whereby talent economy is able to function in a way that it's sustainable for people to work in an efficient environment. But it has still to be followed in countries like India, Bangladesh, and Nepal, Pakistan, South Asian countries especially. So China, example. I mean, most of these countries have the problem that uh, we have now. For example, in India, the age of death has increased now by 80 years now. So, mm, like people have to take care of their parents, for example. So the talent economy wants a system where people are able to work in an environment which is good enough for everybody. The So you have to move with the times. So that is the whole structure of the whole system. And the what second point I would like to talk about is that it plans for effective talent management. So one of the most important thing is effective talent management. So how to manage that talent is the major task of developing countries. And you can't just ask people to leave at short notices, etc. You have to see you have to see their comforts, etc. Then the need is for developmental leadership. So leadership has to see that it should not be stifling independent decisions. They should include people. For example, UK, I mean, I know somebody who's working there. After COVID, everybody is kind of working 2-3 days a week, and they're like working from home. So it kind of saves on to resources of the company, as well as it gives comfort to the people who are working. So that is the whole thing. And also, uh, digital is the new buzzword now. So everywhere things are getting digital. So so the talent economy is now based on digital systems, where these things can be progressed in a way. For example, AI is a major thing now. So these things have to be compelled, and they have to be brought about in a big way. And uh, uh, your purpose should be drive decisions, to drive decisions. So the leadership has to have a system whereby you have decisions which are driven by the leadership, but it also includes the employees. So employees are the most important asset of any company, any talent economy. So that has to be taken care of. Thank
Thank you. Mr. David Smith. Yeah.
Dr. Sharif, I want to start by congratulating you on your 1000th episode. Really a very big milestone, and one that your programs have had significant impact, not only in your own region, but globally. So thank you for letting us be part of it. The talent economy is defined as being a collaborative, transparent, really a very technology rich, technology enabled process, and it's a rapid cycle way of doing business that uh, is built upon the concept of fail fast and move forward, and built around some of the tenets of a fast agile process. And it's really built around the trends that the others have talked about, from the digitalization, both the rapid globalization, but now post the pandemic, well, as the pandemic still going on, going back and enhancing the ability to be local and international and global all at the same time. And the range of technology tools, particularly the social media, the mobility, all the data science, the AI, have really brought really enhanced analytics to enable an open talent economy to work. And the rise of more creatives and the ability to work anywhere, anytime, has dramatically enhanced this uh, open talent economy as well. And there are just tremendous influencers in it from all the different sides, from the corporate world, from entrepreneurs, from government, from academia beginning to work with it to push it forward. And the talent investments have been growing tremendously over the time since the midpoint of the pandemic. And we're still seeing things catch up to it. There is still a movement to have people return back to the offices. There's problems with looking at how to do PKIs and other types of metrics in the open uh, talent economy, and the work that needs to be done to be successful there. But the open talent economy is built upon really the concept that you've heard me speak on your program before, Dr. Sharif, that today it's not the geography location that matters most. It's the competencies and capabilities that matter most when you're trying to solve hard problems, when you're trying to produce products. Personally, as I look at the teams in my different companies, we have global teams. We have teams that circle the globe to allow us to find the best skills, the best competencies, capabilities, and for us to be able to work the time zones where I can have, for example, QA being done in Asia, early setup for that in Europe, major development back in North America, South America, and then handing it off to Asia again overnight while everyone else is sleeping in the other zones. So that is part of what you see with this new view of the talent economy, is how it's changing, how it's uh, really allowing us to do things in a blended way that we could not do before, and one that can help us enhance the products we're producing to meet the client's unique care about. So, Sharif, thank you for letting me do my first uh, introduction on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rob.
Good morning, and let me add my congratulations for the 1000th episode and all the progress we've made here. It's been certainly been impressive. Okay, so the talent. If you're looking at building a talent competency, it's all about building a circle of talent. One of the difficulties you've got with an emerging economy is they don't have any center of anything. The economy is struggling. The people are certainly having issues with food, with medicine, with clean water, particularly in the rural areas. And so it's hard to build up a center of competency, but you have to have a center of competency so people come to you for that competency. We didn't realize how critical Ukraine was for the ASIC market until Russia attacked it, and suddenly we had no ASICs, and it brought much of the world down. Ukraine also has a significant impact on food sources and grain. It's that kind of competency you want to build. Though I should point out in Ukraine's case, it probably would have been wise to make sure we all the world understood how critical they were to so much of industry, because they probably would have gotten more support more quickly in the war if various governments realized their weapon systems and much of their infrastructure depended on technology that was coming out of Ukraine. But you have to build up a confidence, a place where folks go to find out about something that's emerging. And the kinds of things that are emerging are alternative transportation, green energy, both production and use, energy storage. Those are areas that are on the forefront. Artificial intelligence. The part of artificial intelligence that needs a lot of help is training. The training of artificial intelligence can cost upwards of, particularly for a large language model, can cost, and it's very labor intensive, can cost upwards of $100 million to create a large language model. And an emerging economy, you typically have quite a bit of available labor that just needs to be trained into how to curate data. At some point, we'll be able to automate most of that. We're certainly coming around to that. But building up a competency in any of those areas would be ahead of their respective waves, and allow you to carry something forward, kind of your version of Silicon Valley, but in a post-Silicon Valley era, where you're focused on the next technology. Quantum computing is probably a little bit out, and that has an incredibly high physics requirement. So I'm not convinced that would be a way for an emerging economy to go because of that high physics requirement, but it could be done. We just wouldn't be on my top priorities. The things that are closer in are AI training, and particularly energy production and use. Those are all things that are on the critical path at the moment. So, and then sending out people to understand what the underlying dynamics are of building a community like that. You have to have good schools. You have to have safe places for people to live, good economic conditions. Initially, you're going to want to be able to pull people from existing areas into your area to build up a core competence. You can't do it with just internals. You're going to have to pull, because you don't have the competence now. They're going to have to pull that competence from other places, and that means you have to create a place for these people to live, work, that would be better than where they are. I remember back in the day, back in the days I was working at IBM, back when IBM was a work for life company, nobody could recruit out of IBM, except for one company, and that was because as work for life, you just couldn't pull an employee out of IBM. But BMC created a community with good schools, low cost of living, a place where people wanted to live, and they were able to pull people out of IBM, very, very talented people out of IBM, because they would rather live in the world that BMC created than the various areas that IBM had headquarters buildings, particularly in northern New York, where they tried to relocate me, and I just refused to go. So in the end, it's really about thinking through what it would take to create that core element of something where experts can get together, they can collaborate, and then as you bring in new talent, the experts that you have can train the experts of tomorrow, and then you build up education, support, and should include marketing, because as I point out with Ukraine, it really doesn't do you any good to have the kind of monopolies the Ukraine had if nobody knows you've got those monopolies. So it's really important once you build up the competence, you have to make sure the world understands that that's where the competence resides, and then comes to you to do it, to get that competence, and then wants to protect that competence because their industries depend upon it. That's the kind of mutually supportive environment that you want. You don't want to become a threat to the other countries. You want to become a partner, so that they want to work with you, and that requires a very holistic approach to work-life balance, to really making sure that you've not only picked an area that you have a natural affinity for in terms of building that competence, where you've got some kind of core, be it a material. Say if you were going to go into battery research, you probably right now would want to be close to a lithium source. But if it's an alternative technology, you just need to be close to whatever source, whatever you're going to use instead of lithium, or instead of nickel, or any one of the other materials that you're going to need. If you're going to be a energy use or generation source, again, you're going to need to be near the materials to create those things. Or at least manufacturing capacity to do so. Those are not things I think you're going to be able to do virtually. AI is different. AI you can do virtually. There it's all brain trust. You're building a competence, but part of that competence can be built by using AIs themselves. In fact, you could be one of the first organizations to build an AI competence using AIs, because right now there's a clear delineation between how people are being used and how the AIs are being used, even in terms of the companies that are building out the technology, with one exception perhaps being IBM. But I just went through a briefing yesterday with a company that's doing a major AI effort, and really other than proof of concepts, they have nothing. They don't really, they've got a lot of parts, but they haven't really built up the competence to deliver a solution. And that's a failure in the mature world. And this is a mature company, one of the largest tech companies in the world. And yet they're missing solid components on the training side that will make it very difficult for them to move forward without using heavy use of partners. And perhaps you could become one of those partners. But the path is, first you've got to choose a direction you want to make, and then you've got to figure out how you're going to build up that community of talent. So you have a core that then you can expand outwards. I was reminded when I was watching the movie Oppenheimer the other day, when they were building the nuclear bomb project. That's kind of it. You pull together a talent, however it takes to pull together a core talent, and then focus them on a project that's enough over the horizon that when you're done, you won't become obsolete. And while I wouldn't recommend building atomic bombs, the underlying model is good. Skunkworks models are good as well. Same idea. You build a core amount of talent, and you build the capability around that talent. But those models exist, and if you were asking me how to do this, that's how I would do it. I would use existing models. In fact, in today's environment, I would seriously consider building an arcology. That's where you combine the living arrangements, the research arrangements, if it's manufacturing arrangements, entertainment in a single structure or tight community. Looking at the largest scale plan that I've ever been involved with was Disney's Epcot, which had similar concepts going with it, but that has advanced since then. But there have been a number of attempts to build arcologies, but with the environment the way it is right now, I think probably arcologies are time has come, because you can better protect them against disease, against weather. And you can better assure the operation of the arcology because it's self-contained, and you're not as dependent on the outside world as a typical community. But however you get there, you can't take the shotgun approach. You might want to pick a couple things just in case one of them fails, and you've got failover capability. Putting all your eggs in one basket is really not very good either, because the basket can move, and suddenly we're not into eggs, we're into rocket ships or something. So having a hedge, so you're not tied to just one technology, would also be wise. But it's all about building the competence and making sure you can protect and assure it moving forward. And then I'll pass the hat.
I guess I'm up.
Yes, Tom.
All right. Well, the talent economy is really what's going to determine the fate of the world, I believe. So this is a great topic. Right now, we have a talent economy that was kind of built haphazardly from the top down. And, Tom and I have spoken a lot about, I guess we call it the bliss economy or the love economy. There's a statistic I've quoted before that 70% of Americans hate their jobs, probably because, they were kind of compelled to do it, maybe by their parents or their society, or, they never really got the time in life to see not only what they're good at, but as Bucky Fuller said, find something that needs being done that no one else is doing and go do it. And I mean, what a great way to be valued by your community to find something like that. And it also happens to be something you love. Wow, you've nailed it. Then at that point, I like at that point you're getting paid to play, like the author Ray Bradbury said. If you find what you love and get paid for it, you never have to work a day again in your life. So I think ultimately that's the kind of world talent economy that we should be envisioning and moving toward. We can do this by getting in better touch with our subconscious minds and our superconscious as well. How many people take 5 minutes a day to meditate, maybe every day for 5 minutes? And it's kind of easy now. There you can dial up some binaural beats from YouTube and listen to those. And that's an audio phenomenon that kind of opens the unused mental corridors in your mind. And dream journaling is another thing to find what you love. When you wake up, you're going to forget your dreams quickly, but you can write them down upon awakening, and it's amazing how much hidden knowledge comes from dreams. Stephen Hawking talked about this. The guy who discovered the structure of the benzene molecule, it came to him in a dream. There's a lot of what's known as I'm blanking on the word, but it's knowledge from other sources that you can't see right away. Maybe we're going to discover them in the future, how they work, but for now we give it names like paranormal or metaphysical. But just because science is not equipped to handle investigating it doesn't mean that we can't be explorers in that domain. I think that the two greatest attributes of humans are love and curiosity, in my opinion. And I think community science, for instance, combines both of those. You look at the great scientists; they are motivated by both love and curiosity, and they have done more to reduce suffering in the world than most anyone that you can point to. So, how do we build a love talent economy? I would say you need to find your tribe, and it's more important. And now the world is really getting scary. We've got kind of the open source world and the closed source world seem to be ready to come to blows over issues of what nation can dominate what other nation in what way. I like the idea of smaller employee-owned ways to express talent. In a corporation, for instance, it's very top-down driven. There's not a lot of pride of people loving what they create. You create something and give it to the boss and go home and get ready to do it again. That's not a formula for a satisfying work, non-work life. So I think a way to find your tribe is something I'm a big fan of. It's the Worldwide Hobby Amateur Radio. People have called it the best hobby in the world, and I think it is, because there's 3 million people around the world that can talk just peer-to-peer about anything they want, and you can make new friends that way. You can find new talents. You can trade equipment for your ham shack. And I think if we really developed people's ability to communicate that way, we would be surprised how quickly the talent economy develops. In fact, I think it can develop to a point where we have kind of the Star Trek economy, where we have replicators that can kind of create what you need, that no one's got to have to struggle for the minimum basics of life. I've often said you should be able to check out everything you need for a good life from the library. And the library doesn't require a big massive top-down, menacing corporation to run it. It's run by the community. It's run by people cooperating and collaborating. So we're moving from a society of haphazard closed source to one of collaborative open source. And I'm all in favor of this topic. And that's why I love community science and amateur radio. And I think we can have, like, just as the UN has the Sustainable Development Goals, I'm developing what I call community science goals. And I'll be writing and talking more about those in the future. But let me wrap up my thoughts that way. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Tom. I have a specific question. Yeah, like right now we have around 250 million youth. They are outside of school, according to United Nations report in 2023. So from our business incubations, we are trying to develop new curriculum for our youth. Students can engage with this education system, as well as they can develop their economical, like good economical conditions, and they can be economically viable. So what type of strategy we can develop, or how we can bring new education system for the youth communities, especially my concern about these 250 million people, those who are outside of a school.
So you're saying there's 250 million children that are not in school right now, and how do we reach them or educate them? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's even more here.
Yes,
not
exactly.
more here, but so we have an initiative in our campaign called AI Tutors. And there's a lot of ways to approach that. It's the idea of getting an AI tutor, whether it's an app or an actual device that follows a student around, or in this case, a non-student around. And it will learn that student. It will learn that child over time, and it will hone in on its core capacities. It'll hone in on what I call the bliss question. I ask this whenever I have a client. The first question I ask is, what skill, talent, or area of knowledge do you have that you wish more people recognized? And the reason you wish more people recognized is because you were strayed away from that path. Maybe you were good at math, and so your parents wanted you to become an accountant, kind of thing. And so, but we all have this thing we've come into this world with, this really niche expertise that we have, and they rarely have anything to do with our job titles. And so the idea is that this AI tutor, and we're seeing that already, even with ChatGPT, is able to learn that child, hone in on those core capacities, and then help them. If AI automation is taking over all the jobs anyway, the trade-off should be that these AIs help us develop a whole new economy based on the uniquely human skill sets that can't be coded or automated. And so that should be the trade-off. And so if we can and there's a lot of ways to approach this. We can have ads on it. So there would be a profit incentive for companies to invest in this. And we've talked about this before, using it in Bangladesh. I know she's got the prime minister there has a big, digital Bangladesh initiative. And so it would work well there if we can get the Bangladeshi educational system to support this idea. And it could be, we could see companies in the US seeing the profit potential there of having ads or supporting it that way. But there's all kinds of ways to go about it. But the idea is to get these AI tutors into the hands of young people and to hone in, again, on these core capacities. And that should be the trade-off. If AI automation is taking over the engine room of civilization, what are we going to be doing? And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, that there's a real opportunity here. I don't see AI as a threat. I see it as an opportunity to hone those human skill sets that can't be coded or automated. And these are things like our intuition. This isn't woo-woo or magical thinking. We are bringing in all kinds of qualia and stimuli into our subconscious every day. And so I think it's really important that we start working on that, on training students about their gut feeling, because that's the one thing we still have left that the AI can't do yet. But yeah, I think there's a real you know, I had so many notes here from everybody that was talking, and so it's hard to go back to that. But I think the interdependence of countries is our way to peace now. And we're seeing that with Ukraine, just as Rob was saying, that we need to understand how interdependent we are. And so there should be a course from grade school on about letting people in on how interdependent we are. In America, you know, there's a lot of America first thinking out there where it's all about us, and I think it's important that people get out and see the rest of the world, you know, like a Peace Corps kind of thing. But anyway, so I also think that the developing countries have an advantage. They don't have the infrastructure or the lobbyists that we have in developed countries, who are trying to keep the status quo. And so there's an advantage that if a smart government in Southeast Asia, for instance, could bring in AI, which is much cheaper now, or bring in systems, lease them even, and because they don't have lobbyists, you know, like these cable companies and these telephone companies. And I was at Congress back in like 2001, addressing Congress about the anti-spam bill. And in that room, it was full of Verizon or whoever the big telecommunications companies were then, full of lobbyists. They are putting a lot of money into wanting to control where information technology is going. And so anyway, but that's a problem here. That's big companies trying to keep the status quo, trying not to entice innovation in any way. That's a problem with any big corporation. It's more about beating last month's numbers than it is about really innovating. And so, but yeah, also, and picking up on what Rob was saying about how, you know, you couldn't really pull from anybody from IBM until that other company, I think was it BCM, I think. Anyway, BMC, yeah. They created a whole environment, an ecosystem that was attractive. And I think we're seeing that now. It's like he also brought up Oppenheimer, and that's what Los Alamos was. Los Alamos became this little ecosystem, this whole new village created around an idea. And I'm seeing a lot of potential at that with DACA. DACA right now is experiencing everything the world will be experiencing by 2050, if not sooner. There's a overpopulation issue. There's a need for sustainable, smart housing. And so I'm seeing that as a perfect opportunity to be a laboratory for the world. And we've talked about this before too. I was thinking this would be a great place for a transhumanist village, a whole village where we could try all kinds of social, projects and sustainable, farming and things like this, because that's a real opportunity too, that DACA is now experiencing. It's a laboratory for everything that the world will be experiencing by 2050 if we don't do something quickly. And so, and that falls in line with the Prime Minister's need to the incentive for a digital Bangladesh, bringing research, bringing companies in there that aren't just using the cheap labor. They're coming in to do research and using that area to build sustainable technologies. And so there's a lot going on, and I think it's really important that when it comes to educating young people, that we have the AI tutors that can be done cheaply and even free if there's a profit incentive for companies and advertising, things like this, because that's the wave of the future. We need to, these young people who are out of school, they don't necessarily need that paradigm anymore. I mean, sure, we're going to need that for a long time, but if they're not in school, if they don't have access to education, there's a way to really create a whole new economy with these young people. And it's about honing their skills. It's about honing the skill sets that they have come into this world with. And, an AI tutor could do that. And it would just, and again, hone in on these human skill sets that can't be coded or automated, because that's the only thing we have left, really. With AI automation taking over the engine room of civilization, what are we going to be doing now? And so we talked about that yesterday on the show, was honing our intuition. And there's a lot of opportunity. We need to see AI as not a threat, but as an opportunity, as a resource. And so that's, but also during COVID, it really accelerated a lot of trends like telecommuting. And, a lot of things that were good. It gave the earth a chance to breathe for a couple of years. But I think that pendulum is going to swing back to where although we're telecommuting and we're Zoom calling and StreamYarding like we are here today, there's going to be a pendulum swing back to wanting more community, wanting to be, and in the same space as other people. And that picks up on what Rob was saying about how it's going to be important for companies to build a whole ecosystem, to build their own villages, if you will. And that will, I think they're going to see that happen. That's kind of accelerated too. That pendulum swinging has accelerated too. And so I think that's what we're in the Transhumanist Party. That's what our campaign is about. It's kind of getting ahead of that wave, knowing that that's happening anyway. There's going to be a lot of people displaced. And so we're trying to use this campaign to share ideas for people who are displaced or will be displaced, and to get some serious solutions into the hands of Americans, at least. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Mr. Dan.
Well, again, I know that your audience is aimed at university types, and they don't want to hear political messaging. But of course, the transhumanism is a movement. Really, it's more than just particular political party. It's an idea of what I think what Buckminster Fuller practiced was what he called anticipatory design science and comprehensive thinking, and this is what's going to be crucial to the talent economy. There's some great sets of rules that I like. I think someone mentioned the Skunk Works. Was that you, David? And that was, of course, Rob mentioned Skunk Works. And of course, Kelly Johnson had a legendary 14 sets of rules for project managing that I would think anyone could benefit by if they were trying to manage a project or be in business. The other one I love is the Heilmeyer Catechism. George Heilmeyer was the head of the Defense Advanced Projects Research Agency and also at Belcor. And he has a very short list of rules about, what are you trying to do with no jargon? What are the limits of current practice? How are you going to test for progress? And how much is it going to cost? What are the payoffs? Basic stuff. But, sometimes we forget the basic stuff in the process of following our dreams. There's a saying in the artistic community. It's like, if you don't love what you're creating, how do you expect to get paid for it? Because you have what are called like hack artists, that are just doing it to make a buck. And the idea is, one saying is do what you love and the money will follow. Well, I think that's the kind of economy that we're trying to create, an economy of people doing what they love. And Tom, the idea of an AI tutor, I think, would just also be like a counselor, like, here's something society needs, and you seem to have some talents there. Maybe you want to explore, something this direction. There's kind of a funny story about there's a performance artist who's run for president named Vermin Supreme, and he wears a boot on his head, wants to give everyone free ponies. But he says he's getting revenge at his high school counselor because he asked his counselor, hey, can you make money being an artist? And the counselor's like, oh, yeah, sure, that's a great career. You could make money. And he found out, no, artists cannot make money. So he's kind of doing this performance art thing to get back at his high school counselor. But yeah, I think there are class problems in society, and we're not going to have a love and bliss-based economy until we address those inequalities and make everyone equally treated, just like the UN Declaration of Human Rights aspires to be. I mean, it's a tall order because people are not all equal, but they should be given equal chances to have quality of life, I think is the idea there. And if we ain't here to take care of each other, what the heck are we doing? So I'll land the plane there. And I think Samana might have got dropped off. She's trying to get back in.
Mr. Dave?
Well, Sharif, I agree with what has been said, and so much there that it's just a tremendous opportunity for all of us. You know, the talent economy is really a critical part as we look at the future of work. And the talent economy is particularly important today because we're at a time in our world history where we have 5 generations in the workforce all at the same time. And this is kind of a unique time going back and looking through history. And the tenets of the talent economy with the flexibility, the geographic freedom, the fact that you're not typically employed, but you're contracted and other things like that in the talent economy is one that really helps us make changes. And the talent economy is one that's going to have a tremendous ride as we begin to look at the dramatic growth of the use of artificial intelligence in the workplace, as we see robotics and enhanced automation going into the workforce. And we're going to see that happen in clusters than spread more geographically. It reminds me of the old saying, if you look at where we are today, the future is already here, but it's just not evenly distributed. And we see that as particularly evidence around the talent economy. And, you know, the talent economy is kind of like what we talked about a couple of years ago, the gig economy, but the talent economy really emphasizes the expertise, or the talent part of it. It allows us to utilize both the internal competencies and capabilities and the external competencies and capabilities to fill our human capital needs and make the human capital more there. So what you're seeing is it's making organizations more competitive by ensuring the right person for the right job, no matter where they are located and whether they're a full-time employee or not. And so you see that coming together, and that the talent economy has been growing for quite a while. And, you know, that some of the big benefits of it are the market efficiencies, the ability to be scalable, where you can have capacity on demand. I love the ability to have that type of capacity on demand. And in our development activities, we utilize that all the time. The speed, the flexibility. Yes, oftentimes the talent economy will result in cost savings for companies, but also it lets us look at quality of people, the quality of work in ways that we could not really before. The other thing that I want to just say, and putting back on my future side on this one, what's driving this trend? We've heard Rob and others mention this, but some of the trend is the globalization. It's the technology, and particularly the digitalization. You know, we see things like Moore's law and Metcalfe's law and Reed's law being applied dramatically into the talent economy. Reed's law in particular is one that it will be influencing the talent economy. And you heard me just talk about artificial intelligence and robotics and automation are a big one of the trends driving it. Mobility. The pandemic really helped us understand mobility is much easier than it was before. We're seeing social businesses, education. You know, Sharif, we often talk about education, and the talent economy reinforces the concept that we're in a time of lifelong learning. And this is not just the traditional learning of going to a physical college, university, trade, whatever, but also the online, because we now have MOOCs, I'm sorry, massively open online content courses that are there. We're seeing the whole concept of training and skill development being rethought. Analytics are being brought to the whole talent economy. All these trends are going to help us shape what is coming with this talent economy. And folks like Rob, who have been involved in human resources throughout his career in traditional corporations, this new talent economy yet again stretches our definition of human resources. It stretches our definition of human capital. And it's forcing us to relook at things like intellectual property. It's forcing us to relook at things like the ability to look at some of the human resource-centered regulations. And it will be a tool that will force change, not just to the people who are part of the talent economy, but to the regulators, to the educators, to the people who provide services and capabilities such as healthcare, such as other types of insurance and things that traditionally have been more of a corporate benefit. It's going to force us to look at a new way to look at fintech as well, because in the talent economy, in its purest sense, with all the mobility and the geographical distribution, some of the old fintech models need to probably be expanded upon. So it's going to be a great opportunity for entrepreneurship moving forward in the talent economy. So I think with that, Sharif, I will push it back over to Rob, I guess.
Okay, so I'm back. I want to bridge off something that Tom mentioned. The use of artificial intelligence as a way to train, provide individual training for students. I'm aware of a couple of programs here in the States to look aggressively at this. But one of the issues we have in a developed economy is an unwillingness to change. And the education system, at least here in the United States, is badly broken. The difficulty is going to be is how do you introduce AI without triggering the teachers unions and having the kinds of strikes that the auto workers unions and the writers and actors have had with similar concerns. That's not an issue you should have in an emerging economy. Emerging economy is looking for help, but looking for ways to do things differently. And often can advance more quickly because they don't have to go through the interim steps. One of the great needs we're going to have as we approach the 2030s is the need for people to understand how to interoperate and work with artificial intelligence. We should be training kids today on those core skills. Much like the web was in the early days, the artificial intelligence needs a lot of work now. But that means that there is a lot of effort that needs to go into creating these constructs. And in the developed world, that effort's going into things like marketing, factory floor automation, autonomous vehicles. It's not going into education. I mean, not anywhere near the level that it should, given the problems that we have with education. But this would be something an emerging economy could do and catch the rest of the world napping, per se, and showcase how it is done, and then become a center of competence, not only for training AIs, but for training people how to interoperate and work with them, not to be threatened to use them as a tool. And we know from initial research that when somebody knows how to use one of these generative AI tools, they get a productivity bump of anywhere from 30 to 80%, which is significant. And recognize that 30 to 80% isn't proficiency, because we haven't had the tool in place long enough to achieve proficiency. It's adequacy. If you could achieve proficiency, Myers-Briggs, boy, it brings back memories. If you could get to proficiency with these tools, I expect the productivity improvements would be multiples of not an 80%, but a 2x, 3x productive. In fact, you can see that kind of in test if you use some of the tools like Microsoft's Copilot, and you understand how automatic sentence completion and some of the other things work. You can significantly increase your typing speed, and you're talking about being able to direct an AI to write a book in a couple of hours. In fact, we're already seeing a lot of publishers saying, "Hey, time out," where authors were effectively submitting books on a monthly or semi-monthly cadence, and then also submitting monthly multiple books on a daily cadence, and that to me is way more than and they've had to shut it down because they just can't accept that kind of volume. That's way more than an 80% jump. It's like a 3,000% jump. And so the potential here to use AI as a game changer, a massive accelerator in terms of advancement of students, and then carry that advancement into industry is significant, and would provide an opportunity for an emerging economy to build up a core group of folks that understand and then create AIs for education. Arguably taking the mission at the start as being multilingual, which isn't particularly difficult with these conversational models. The training sets for language translation already exist. You don't have to build those. And so creating an educational construct that at least initially would provide individual tutoring, which is what we're exploring here. Individual tutoring for students, but all the way up to full-on classes, where if you have 5 kids that want to learn a particular skill set that isn't present in your country, you just borrow that competence from another company, another country, or another area, translate it into your language, and then build up their competence, both learning from the AIs, the subject matter, but learning how to interoperate with the AIs as children. So when they reach adulthood, they're able to be masters at working and interoperating with AIs, regardless of their chosen field. Now, the risk of doing that particular path is the fact that it's highly likely, given the way an emerging economy is, that they'll be recruited out of that emerging economy with that competence and end up going someplace else, which takes me back to that need to make sure that you're building complexes where people feel safe, where they want to stay, they want to put down roots, so somebody can't recruit them out. Because if you do one and not the other, you're just going to be building workers for other countries, and you're going to lose the tax. I mean, you're going to spend the money on the education and the AI. You're not going to get the benefit of the trained workers. So you have to build into the program retention, and I would argue against forced retention. That's been done in the past, where you go in and you get a particular degree, be it a medical degree or whatever. The state pays for it, takes you all the way through, and then you have to work for the state for 10 years or 5 years or whatever it is to pay it back. But then the people still may relocate. I think it's the forced retention is something to consider. If they want to stay and want to live there, then you don't have to worry about the forced retention. If you've got forced retention and they don't want to stay there, there's a good chance some of them are going to figure out how to breach the forced retention, and it's not like you can take the education back. So making sure the program is designed not only to train, but to retain the talent that is created would be critical to the overall process. And then thinking ahead and making sure that the industries are there to pick up this talent once it has been trained and come out the back door. And that's why I'm suggesting that perhaps the competency that you develop is this interoperation with AI, and then you export the training. You export the learning. You don't export the people. And the nice thing with regard to AI, because it's a digital technology, it doesn't necessarily require the people to go with it, but it will require relatively rapid advancement to maintain the technology lead. But if you develop the competence, and that competence goes back to the youth, that's going to be really hard for somebody else to replicate quickly. But granted, you'll have the long-term risk, because eventually the emerging economies will come around. You probably have a 10-year to 20-year window that you could work within, but you've got to be aware that window has a close date. And by that particular time, that close date occurs, you will need to be able to make whatever the next step is, be it more heavily integration, be it human machine integration, be it any one of a number of things that is coming. but that also has to be part of the overall plan. So you're prepared to pivot, because the market will pivot. It always does. Will pivot on either a 10 or 20-year cadence. And so planning for the training, planning for retention, and then planning for the pivot would be my advice going forward. And then I'll pass the hat.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Yeah. So my recommendation would be that we should move beyond profit. It's like developed countries should help as much as possible in education, not just about AI and robotics, but also other subjects, like for example, the history, the politics, the philosophy. For example, I would like to quote, I don't remember the actor, but who said, if there were people who would be speaking philosophy on the streets rather than speaking about who the actors are, that would make the world a much better place. So the Gen Z, for example, is more concerned about climate changes. They're more concerned about LGBTQ communities problems. So many of these things have to be considered. And Dan, I'm sorry, I'm not just concerned about Gen Z, but also about the people who are like 80 plus or 90 plus and who have the wisdom, who have too much of wisdom to give to the Gen Z. So I mean, I'm not just concerned about them, but their concern has to be our prime motive. And as much as my personal thing is there, that a culture of trust and empathy between nations have to be created. And the dialogue, for example, wherever there is a war, there is a lack of dialogue, and politicians are doing this. So many of our people who are academicians and who are free thinkers, who are not aligned to a certain political party's way of being, they should come forward and bring about changes in the world. And as far as children are concerned, I have taught without a cent African people, African students, and in college, for example, I have taught them philosophy. I have been teaching people in India free of cost, without any money from them. So I mean, that is the whole thing, and that should be the purpose of our living, And so, I mean, we might meditate, we might do many things, but if we are not doing anything practically, I guess the talent economy is going to collapse. The talent economy requires that we need to have a system where economics is mixed with lack of sheer profit. So the profit should not be the only motive, but many other things are more important than just creating profit. And many people who are like into spiritualism, etc., would understand that particular aspect, and they would appreciate that people, and the world right now is seeing a rise of spiritualism. And many of my friends, for example, in America, for example, I mean, Dan was also speaking about spiritualism. So I guess all these things together, we can make a better world, and a truly talented based economy where people are helping each other, giving a hand to each other, raising people who are lower than us, and bringing up them to our level. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tom, what's your closing remarks for today?
Well, just again, congratulations on your 1,000th episode. And again, you helped me hone my message and turn it into initiatives for our campaign. And so, again, just thank you for allowing me to do that, and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Dan.
Yeah, echoing what Tom said, here's to 1,000 more, Dr. Sharif. You're doing doing great work. And the name of the show is so appropriate: World Talent Economy Forum. I mean, maybe it'll be the World Bliss Economy Forum at some point. But yeah, to speak to Dr. Tamana's point about profit doesn't have to be foremost. So look at the amount of people that people devote to games and bragging rights and recognition in their community. I mean, that's a force that can really be, I hate to use the word weaponized. I don't know another good word. A force that can be recruited in the service of this. Well, I'm going for the Star Trek future, so I'll pass the hat there.
Thank you, Mr. David Smith. What's your closing remarks?
Sharif, once again, my sincere congratulations to you for your 1,000th episode. Your programs have made a difference, and it's your dedication and it's your vision that has really helped elevate this to so many people globally and within your region. As we said, the talent economy is one that is changing, and we're seeing that. We're seeing the growth going, and we're seeing the ability to have people understand that it's a global talent and that it is one that can really help you as you're looking forward in the different tools and coming out. The talent economy will grow on the back of new digital tools that exploit the universal connectivity we're beginning to see. And, you know, a program like this is a great example of that universal connectivity. And there, again, some of the keys to the talent economy are the concept of lifelong learning. And you really have to think lifelong learning. To companies, you have to rethink your labor supply chain. You have to rethink your development. You have to rethink of how you pay people and how you reward people. And you also see that customers can be talent in your talent economy as well, and how the changing nature of public-private partnerships, the changing nature of joint ventures are really going to be built around the concept of the open talent economy. And I applaud you again, Sharif, for your insight and your vision for making these happen. And thank you for having me be part of this very important milestone in your shows.
Thank you, Mr. Rao.
Well, in closing, the use of AI was core to my the concepts I carried forward. But one of the things that we really need to consider with regard to AI is the application of AI as a personal coach. We've kind of hovered around it, but one of the difficulties that happens to everybody that's growing up and going through education is picking your path in life. And the things we don't teach kids, things about how to establish relationships, how to date, for instance, how to pick a career, how to change a career once you've picked it, how to build a nest egg, how to just do basic stuff like cooking, has been left out of many education programs, and particularly here in the developed world, kids are coming out and they don't even really get how to work in a company. It's just bizarre, and the turnover rate for kids coming out of college here is abnormally high. With failure rates occurring in a 3 to 6 month cadence. Means we're just not training people well, and AI could fill those underlying gaps. And if we start early enough and the program is complete enough, you could create students that are far more capable for the world that's come than in the developed countries are doing. And at the heart of anything you're going to do, I think it takes me back, and I'm going to pivot a little bit here, at what Thomas Watson Jr. said as he was leaving IBM. He said, "Be willing to change everything but who you are." And I think a lot of countries have trouble determining who they are. What does the country stand for? Where would the country stand out? what will the priorities be for where we're going to invest? And of course, we're just going to say, well, we invest in our people, or we invest in the military. Yeah, but why? What is the overarching goal here? In 40 years, where does that? So the question you ask a new hire in 10 years, where do you want to be? In 20 years, where do you want to be? Well, countries that in 50 years, where should the country want to be? As we came into the beginning of the 20th century, there was a series of dynamics that occurred. The U.S. was just starting to come into its own. Great Britain was very strong. France, Spain, they were the world powers per se. Germany certainly, and then things certainly changed. Now the two leading world powers are U.S. and China, with China on the ascension, and U.S. is arguably in decline. The same thing that happened a century ago with a bunch of other countries, and so you can plan now, and with artificial intelligence and the level of mechanization we've got capable, you could plan now to be a power in the world in 10 to 20 years. Much like Japan went from really not a major player to being one of the major players in automotive alone, and personal electronics. But it requires a plan and a goal, and then you have to execute that plan and goal, and you can come from behind and reach the lead. I mean, look at China. You go back and look at pictures of the way China was 100 years ago. It just really wasn't a player on the world stage. It was barely keeping the doors open, and now it's a force to be reckoned with. But it required governmental focus. It required a vision and somebody willing to execute against the vision. Now, I'm not saying that you want to aspire to be China, because they've got a lot of issues, but the thing is I'm pointing out that it can be done. So I think for an emerging economy, one of the first things you have to decide is, who are you and who do you want to be, and then build towards that. And I'll pass the hat.
Thank you, Dr. Tamanna.
Yeah. So, Dr. Sharif, thank you for inviting me, and congratulations, many congratulations for your 1000th episode, and I'm like extremely glad that I'm here. But as far as the whole concept is concerned, you know, I mean, the time of dictators and leadership, which prospers on the basis of dictatorship, is long gone back. Despite the fact that we still have dictators, but people have to come together, and in a talent economy, it has to be a system which is decentralized, federal. Many countries, they claim they are federal, but they are really not federal, and they have dictators as their leaders. So I guess a talent economy would require a decentralized system where people are able to talk to their leaders in a very simple manner, and a dictatorship has to be done away with in any country. So I guess, I mean, for example, Russia right now, or China, but like you have many other countries doing that. I mean, I would not exclude many other countries as well, but I guess people are in China also. There is a lot of revolt against these kind of leaderships, but obviously it's not receding right now. So, but maybe from 50 years from now, probably they might just understand that a communist system also requires a lot of decentralization. You might continue to be communist, but you can be not a dictator. So similarly with Russia. So I mean, US is again federal polity, but on and off they have leaders who are tyrants, and so I mean, many countries have seen these systems, and every leader, for example, would differ in their way of being. But what is actually required between the leaders is, if the leadership is going to work in a certain way, it's going to translate down to the level of people who are the poorest in these sections. So the way we had a G20 summit, for example, we the India's initiative AU was included. So Africa needs to be included in every discussion, and they have to be included because they have seen a lot of colonialism, and so this is, I mean, I would definitely prefer a system where a government, a president or a prime minister is able to reach to the lowest section of the society. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I want to give special thanks the speaker, those who regularly join World Talent Economy Forum, the audience, those who continuously support World Talent Economy Forum, and the people, those who join in our ecosystem, especially the Business Incubation Center, the Prime Minister Office from different countries, different government agencies, corporations, academy, school, college, NGO. I want to give them special thanks, and definitely with all of your support, we can develop new work. But we need to work together. We need to work hard. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye, and take care.
Thank you.